The Legend of Zelda series is known for its amazing dungeons, but not the Wind Waker. Yeah, everyone's favorite cartoony foray into Zelda doesn't have the greatest reputation when it comes to its dungeon lineup. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of those awful dungeons, being the Forbidden Woods. While many consider the Forsaken Fortress to be the worst dungeon in the game, I gotta say, the Forbidden Woods is right down there with it. Welcome to another episode of Temple by Temple, where we review and grade the temples of the Legend of Zelda series. If you've never seen one of the critically acclaimed Jikbean Temple by Temple videos, then let me go ahead and explain how things work around here. I'll talk about the entire lead up to the temple alongside everything inside I find important to talk about. After the temple is over, I'll give it a standard tier list letter grade. Without any further ado, let's get right into the review and grading of Wind Waker's Forbidden Woods. Now that we've collected Din's Pearl from Dragoneer's Cavern, we can start making our way to the Forest Haven. Before we do that though, we gotta head back on over to Windfall Island because there's a few new things to do. First things first, we can learn a new song. You remember that Elvis looking weirdo dancing next to a grave? Well, his name is Tot, and if we whip out our Wind Waker, he'll start hitting these random poses and making the dumbest sounds.
Yeah! Yeah!
After matching your Wind Waker with his poses, you'll learn the Song of Passing, which allows you to switch from day to night and night to day. With that, there's one more thing to do, but my goodness, is it both awesome and annoying. There's a building with our old pal Zurani in it, and apparently he's hosting an auction where we can get some awesome items. The auction only happens at night, and there's a whopping 7 people here, which is pretty much all the Windfall Island residents. Zunari will reveal an item, and then you have to have a fun bidding war with all these other lifeless losers. Real talk though, why are all these people bidding on sea charts among other sea-related things? As far as I can tell, there's no boats or ships around the island. I don't know, maybe they have like a little canoe or something stored inside of their houses. The main reason we're even doing this whole auction is because we can get a swift sail, which nearly doubles our speed while sailing. I don't know if this is a common issue or not, but I was really struggling to even get the swift sail to be an item up for auction. I probably did about 10 different auctions before it even showed up. Even though it took me a while to get the swift sail, I still really like this side quest. I have a crippling gambling addiction thanks to Luigi, so I find the auctioning fun. Anyways, with the swift sail acquired, we can head on over to the Forest Haven. According to the King of Red Lions, this is a sacred place that's home to one of our old pals, the Deku Tree. As we climb up the island to try and reach the tree, there's Boko Babas blocking the pathway. There's a little river section where we have to jump across some platforms, deal with some Octoroks, and use our grappling hook. Eventually, we'll reach the entrance to the Forest Haven. While I'm not the biggest fan of this game, I will say I really love all the islands you come across in this game. I also like that the forest theme is used later in the game than normally. The Forest Haven also has a nice little musical track to go along with the area. Eventually we'll come across some tree with a face, but oh no, there's some choo-choos on him. If we roll into the tree, we can get the choo-choos off of him and fight them. It's pretty simple, and once we've done that, we can finally talk to this ugly guy. This right here is the Deku Tree, and can I get a quick side-by-side comparison of this guy and Shrek? I mean, tell me these two don't look the same. This version of the Deku Tree is highly considered to be the Deku Tree sprout that we saw in Ocarina of Time. I don't believe that's been officially confirmed, but I think it makes sense and would be pretty cool. The Deku Tree also introduces us to the Koroks, which are these little forest spirits that are descendants of Ocarina of Time's Kokiris. I've only played through Wind Waker recently, so I was really shocked to see how consistent the design of the Koroks is. The Koroks in Wind Waker look nearly identical to those of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which really shocked me. According to the Deku Tree, the Koroks hold a special ceremony once every year, and in even better news, we'll be gifted with the next pearl we need, but something's stopping them from completing the ceremony. Apparently, one of the Koroks named Makara has fallen into the Forbidden Woods, which seems to be a huge issue. Since Link's everyone's favorite little errand boy, we're of course gonna have to go save him. But as one of the very wise Koroks state, humans can't fly, which we'll need to be able to do in order to even enter the Forbidden Woods. Luckily, the Deku Tree's got just the item we need, however, because his magic power is diminished or something, we have to climb up to get it ourselves. Using these Baba Buds, we can launch ourselves into the air where we have to land right back into another bud, and so on and so forth. Just like that stupid auction, I kinda struggled with this too. Yes, I know, haha, I suck at video games. Anyways, once we finally climb to the top, we'll get an awesome item, being the Deku Leaf. With the Deku Leaf, we can glide around places, allowing us to start our trek to the Forbidden Woods. I know I just said we're gonna start heading to the Forbidden Woods, but I lied. I'm sorry, please just let me make it up to you by talking about some awesome side content. The second we leave the Forest Haven, we can spot a little island directly across from us. If we go over there, some nerdy looking fellow will ask us to hit a switch that will open up this vault looking area. If you've got a pair that can be bought from Beetle, you can just take control of a seagull and smack his head on the switch to open up the entrance to the Nintendo Gallery. This place is pretty neat, as you can give this guy pictures of cool people and he'll turn them into sculptures. It'll take a day before they're ready, but man do I love looking around this place. While there's a few parts of Wind Waker I don't enjoy, it's the little things like these that make me appreciate the game. Okay, now it's actually time to head to the Forbidden Woods. If we continue to take the normal path, we'll see that we can use the Deku Leaf to glide on over to a separate platform. We can actually use the Wind's Requiem to our advantage and get over to the other platform easier. On this platform, there's an updraft that we can take to get on over to the Forbidden Woods entrance, but one slight issue. I'm really bad at this game. These stupid pea-hats at the entrance were giving me the business, and I for the life of me could not get past them. You know, I'm starting to think the reason I don't like this game as much as other Zeldas is because I suck at it. Nonetheless, once you make it past them, you'll be able to enter the Forbidden Woods. As always with these videos, let's start by taking a look at the dungeon theme. I've already said that I'm not a big fan of this place, but my goodness, this might be one of my favorite temple themes of all time. There's so many different elements here, from percussion to low-reed instruments, flutes, and a constant wind in the background. As some of you probably know, I'm a sucker for a good atmospheric theme, and the Forbidden Woods theme really immerses you in the area. That is another huge positive with Wind Waker. The music in this game is phenomenal and might be the best in the Zelda series. The very first room has a whole lot of green choo-choos trying to inconvenience you at every turn. On the left side of the room, there's a Jikbean-sized Boko Nut that we can then throw at this vine parasite thing on the door to unlock it. Before we go through it though, there's a chest on the right side of the room containing our patented dungeon map. Through the door, we come across a pretty fun room where we can combine Boko Bulbs with the Deku Leaf to glide across the room. There's also vines we have to dodge while gliding, but unlike those stupid pea-hats, they aren't too difficult to avoid. Once we make it to the other side of the room, there's another one of these vine parasites blocking the door, but luckily we can use some bomb flowers located nearby to blow that sucker up. The next area shows off another feature of the Deku Leaf, which allows you to shoot wind at objects. In this particular room, we can throw some wind at these little turbines which make this platform move. In the next room, we have these stupid motherfuckers who are stupid as shit and need to burn in the fiery pits of hell. Whew. Sorry I went a little over the top there. My bad. Anyway, there's some pea-hats in here that can be defeated easily with our glorious Deku Leaf. There's also a lot more Boko Babas to take out too, and one of them is nice enough to let us use its bulb to climb higher. At the top of the room, there's yet another parasite vine blocking the door. While there's nothing on this side we can use to break the lock, there is a Boko Nut on the other side of the room we can get to using another platform controlled by turbines. Once we get the nut to the other side of the room, we can then head to the next room, but don't forget to get this chest containing a whopping 20 rupees. The next area introduces you to a very annoying mechanic in this dungeon, which are vines that pop out of the ground if you get near them. They're blocking another nut we'll need to continue onwards, but luckily we can just use the Deku Leaf to get it away from the vines. This next room is the closest thing we have to a central room in the dungeon. We can use our grappling hook to climb up to a couple of moving wooden platforms that I find pretty cute. Up here's a locked door we can't access yet, and a nut that we can take all the way to another vine locked door. There's also more wooden platforms we can climb that take us up to a pile of leaves that when blown away reveals a warp pod. I haven't talked too much about these yet, but they basically act as checkpoints you can travel back to throughout the dungeon. They're a welcome addition to the dungeon, but I honestly don't ever really use them. Through the once vine-encased door, we enter a hallway with a ton of morphs. These guys will stick to you, and the only way to get them off is by performing a spin attack, which isn't easy in this tight hallway. Once they're all gone, you can open a chest with 10 whole rupees and continue onward through another door. This honestly might be my least favorite room, and I'm sure you can guess why. I found this room to be super annoying because what you have to do is blow up some wooden barricades with bombs. The first one's not so bad because there's nothing blocking your way, and behind it is a chest containing the compass. There's another barricade that we can take out, but it seems to be out of reach from the bombs. Unfortunately, there's a very specific path you have to take to get in front of the barricade due to the vines popping up out of the ground. Now, I wouldn't hate this room nearly as much if I had just realized that I could throw the bomb in front of the barricade from the other side of the vines a lot sooner. The entire reason why I don't like this room is because of how incompetent of a Zelda player I am. Anyways, once you blow up the wood and get to the other side, you can open up a chest containing a small key. Of course, there's only one locked door that we know of, so let's head on over to it. Also, when we head back through the hallway, there's more morphs and green choo-choo standing in our way. Once we unlock the door, we get to another room with another platform you'll need to move using the Deku Flower, and these stupid pea-hats! Shiggy, I've had it up to here with these stupid enemies. What makes this room a bit different than others like this is that you actually have to hit the turbine on the far side before jumping onto the platform. The timing is not that bad, and once you reach the other side, we can enter a neat new area. There's tons of enemies in this room, ranging from Boko Babas to Mothulas, and of course, these guys. This room is actually pretty vertical, and we can take some Boko Bulbs all the way up to 2 doors, with one of the doors of course being blocked off by some vines. The other door is unlocked, and this leads to a mini-boss. The mini-boss for the Forbidden Woods is just a big Mothula, and it's honestly pretty fun. Spoiler alert, this fight is way better than the final boss of the dungeon. The Mothula poops out some morphs, and we'll do a little drive-by. It's still pretty easy, and once you chop off its wings, it's all she wrote for Mothula. With Mothula defeated, a room opens with a chest containing the dungeon item, the boomerang. I'm a big boomerang enjoyer, and it's super fun to use in this game. We need to use the boomerang to hit a couple of switches in order to exit the room. Using the boomerang, we can also get rid of the vine parasites on the door. The next area has a bunch of spiky nuts that we need to cut down with a boomerang in order to cross to the other side of the room. On the other side, there's a chest with a joy pendant and another door we can go through. This takes us back to the kinda central room where we can now cut down this weird tree flower looking thing. Once it's cut down, it crashes into a completely new area for us to explore. After going through the door, there's of course some morphs, and that's it. Nothing else down here. No enemies, no nothing. With a bit of platforming and some more enemy killing, we can go through a door to the next room. There's a floating flower that we can cut down, but first we need to get the chest on the other side containing a yellow rupee. After cutting down the flower, we can then use it to guide a bomb flower to a barrier blocking a door. Through the door, there's a bunch of enemies to pack out and another Boko Baba who's nice enough to let us use his bulb. On the upper floor of the room, there's another platform that can be moved by shooting wind at turbines. This is my favorite one of these puzzles of the bunch because once again, you have to move the platform first, then glide on over to it to be able to move it to the other side. On the other side is a bomb flower that we can throw into a hole which allows us to get a chest. Inside of the chest is, of course, a treasure chart! Woo, baby, my favorite! I'm sorry guys, I've been hating on this game too much. I'm exaggerating it. I do think this is a good game, but it's just not for me. Anyway, we can go back to the flower from earlier and move down this dirty sewer water stream using the Deku Leaf. There's some Octoroks along the way that I find very fun to kill with the flower boat. At the end of the stream, there's a bunch of green choo-choos and Dexavines to fight, which is always fun. There's also a door we can go through, but the way back through gets blocked off by some vines. In here, there's a bunch of pillars with switches on them that we need to hit with our boomerang all at once. Once that's done, a door opens to a chest containing the big key. Did I just make the same joke as I did for the Dragon Roost Cavern review? Yes, I did. Once we get the key though, a couple of scary moblins get dropped into the area, but we can take them out pretty quickly. Once they're out of the way, the door to escape opens up, however, we do have to do a little bit of climbing to get up there. Now we need to head all the way back to the semi-central room, but I got a bone to pick with you again, Wind Waker. So when you hit this turbine with wind, it causes an updraft to appear, but how the heck is that possible? I don't understand how all of a sudden this can just happen. Man, who am I kidding? There's talking boats and trees in this game. I don't think random wind shooting up is that far-fetched. Back in the central room, there's a door that we can open up with our boomerang that leads to a room with a couple of Mothulas to fight. Once they're defeated, a chest spawns in containing a joy pendant and the next area unlocks. For the final room before the boss, there's just a bunch of spiky nests to dodge. How engaging. Once we enter the boss room though, we can spot the Korok Makar, but then he gets eaten, oh no! This right here is the very underwhelming boss of the Forbidden Woods, Kalle Demos. While the boss is underwhelming, Kalle Demos' theme is another absolute banger. You know, the more I think about it, the more I really do think Wind Waker might have my favorite soundtrack out of any Zelda game. It's such a hype theme that contrasts with the mysterious vibe that the Forbidden Woods has. In order to beat Kalle Demos, you have to use your boomerang to cut his little tentacles attached to the ceiling. Once you do that, you can then wail on him with your sword in his face. If you're not careful though, he might swallow you while you're attacking him, but it's not too big of a threat. Before you know it, the fight will be over and Makar will be saved. Yeah, this boss is just super underwhelming, which hurts the dungeon's grade. However, this boss does have one super neat feature. You can actually beat this boss in one hit, which is a super cool feature. In order to do so, you need to grab some forest water, which you can get from the forest haven, and pour it into the flowery center of the boss. The slight caveat with this is that the forest water will expire in 30 minutes, so you either have to run through the entire dungeon quickly or get the big key and then go get the water. Nonetheless though, it's still a pretty cool feature that at least makes this boss slightly more interesting. After getting our patented heart container, we get teleported back to the Forest Haven with Makar. The Deku Tree is pleased that Makar has returned in one piece, and now they can perform the ceremony. The Deku Tree also keeps his promise and grants us with Furor's Pearl. You also get to experience the Korok ceremony, and it's so freaking beautiful, man. Truly a masterpiece of a ceremony. The ceremony actually produces a bunch of seeds that the Koroks can use to go spread the forest to other parts of the sea, which is pretty neat. And that's the end of the Forbidden Woods. The dungeon as a whole is kind of a mixed bag for me. For starters, I really love that we get to use the Deku Leaf, and getting the boomerang is also great. The bosses, on the other hand, just feel a bit lackluster and short compared to many others in Zelda games. There's also quite a few points in the dungeon where I just feel like they're dragging things. There's also a bit of repetitiveness with the Deku Leaf puzzles here. I know that we still have the Wind Temple to cover, and trust me, that one will have a lot better wind puzzles, but it would have been nice to have a little variety. That being said though, I really love the atmosphere of the Forbidden Woods. The music everywhere is amazing, it does a great job at immersing you in the location. Unfortunately, I don't think I can give this dungeon higher than a C, and it's a lower C at that. I just don't find a lot of the actual dungeon super interesting. There are some positives to the Forbidden Woods, but I really just think the negatives vastly outweigh the positives. Not the worst dungeon I've ever played through, nor the worst in this game, but it's not one I'm going to look forward to playing through again. Well, there you have it. There's the Forbidden Woods ranked and reviewed. I'm super excited for the next episode in this series because, spoiler alert, the Tower of the Gods is absolutely amazing. Also, I've already covered Dragon Roost Cavern, which I'll link below, and I've also covered every Ocarina of Time temple and Majora's Mask temple, which I'll link below as well if you want to give it a watch. We unfortunately will be taking a little break from temple by temple as I really want to celebrate the release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. You'll at least exclusively be getting Mario Galaxy videos every Saturday, with a little bonus video released in the middle about the Mario Wonder DLC. Once we hit the second week of April, we might be back to doing this series, but who knows. I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support on the recent uploads. It means the absolute world to me, and I just can't thank you enough. If you want to help out the channel, the best thing you can do is subscribe. I'd love to continue growing this channel and be able to reach new audiences everywhere. Of course though, I have to give a very special shout out to the realist Jickbean loyalist, Alice in Elden Ring. That's gonna do it for me though. Have a phenomenal rest of your day, and we'll be seeing ya.